My number 3 game of the year, and even going back and looking at some of this stuff, it reminds me how kind of damn cool this game was. Arguably one of the best story-focused games that I think that we have played on this channel in a long time, because there's a lot of story focus in this game. It is Guardians of the Galaxy. I definitely would not have called that in 2021 that a Guardians of the Galaxy Marvel game would be anywhere close to my top noms, considering how this game looked and was marketed back the year before. Wouldn't have seen that shit coming, but almost everything about this game was ridiculously good. And I'm not even just talking about the characterization or the story or specifically the combat or traversal. I think this game executes on so many things ridiculously well. That it's hard to even pinpoint one of the things that I like the most. And you know what? I'm going to say it because it's gameplay related. One of the things that I like the most about Guardians of the Galaxy is, believe it or not, the environments. When you're going through the environments of this game and you're like solving things and getting stuff done, you have to utilize your teammates in some pretty creative and cool ways. And in fact, you can utilize your teammates with other teammates to get around and locate stuff and climb to different locations and stuff like that. I really enjoyed that. Almost so much to the point where I hope that other giant team-based games potentially in the future, like potentially even FF7 Remake Part 2, I really hope they make the characters engage with the environment in unique ways like this game does. Because my God, man. Not to mention all the stuff that is on the surface level that is ridiculously enjoyable. Some of these levels and environments were great. Not to mention the enemy variety was not bad either. And the thing that is easily the least effective in Guardians of the Galaxy is its combat. The problem with the combat, and it's not even really a problem, it just doesn't shine nearly as much as the rest of the game. Some of the other elements of the game, like the story and environments and characters and level design even, are super goddamn good. But the combat is like, it's all right. I don't really have any direct issues with it. It's not like the most exemplary, greatest shit ever, but, you know, launching a dude and uppercutting them into Rocket Raccoon with a giant space laser while Gamora knocks them to the ground and then Drax spins their ass into a wall is pretty fun. Like, it's pretty enjoyable. Well, here's the funny thing. Somebody just mentioned the music is really good too. I played this game on a dramatically compromised experience, right? I played it on streamer mode, and I got access to almost none of the wonderful music accolades that are spiced throughout the whole game to make moments that much more impactful. So I didn't even get to play the game with one of its biggest features, which is the really cool musical nods and musical moments. I didn't even get that. And even without that, even with none of that shit, it was still great. I still dramatically enjoyed like the story beats and moments and the boss fights and everything like that. It was still super good. Even being heavily detrimented on my first playthrough and only experiencing like a portion of what the intended developer musical nods were, I loved it. I think I don't even know if there's an area in this game that I didn't really enjoy. I think I actually enjoyed every single environment. I think I enjoyed every single level. I think that by the end of the game, the combat was getting a little stale. By like, you essentially are exhausting what your weapons are capable of and all of your weapon expansions and what your team expansions are. By the end of the game, you essentially have like everything. And yes, at the very, very tail end of the game, I was definitely executing like the same few very effective things that was getting me some good results. So by all means, I think that once again, the combat isn't perfect, but it's serviceable. And it's serviceable because the game has a ridiculous amount of replay value outside of the combat. You get these worlds and environments that have so many different nooks and crannies and places you can go to. There's dialogue trees that genuinely lead to completely different things that happen throughout the game most of the time. Yeah, somebody said they had a gripe that you were paranoid about missing out on conversations. Yes, that is a big part of it. There's a big part of this game is running through and looking for the unique dialogue trees and how that will change what happens. Because yeah, I had some stuff that was dramatically different than what people had seen. And then suddenly this sequence played out in a way that very few people had actually seen before. And I was just like, I would have no idea, right? And you only wouldn't know that until you had a second playthrough. So replayability, really fun level design, serviceable combat that's enjoyable, that lasts like about 90% of the time being really enjoyable. And the other thing, all the characters are great. Like Star-Lord, Gamora, like at the end of it, it's hard for me to pinpoint which one I like the most. I guess Groot is like probably the least engaging because he literally has no lines of dialogue until you do a New Game Plus and he actually speaks. Like it translates what Groot has been speaking like the entire game, which is hilarious. You guys didn't know that? Groot just says, "I am Groot" throughout the whole game. But if you beat the game, you actually get an option for Groot to be translated so you can hear what he says. You didn't know? That's not a spoiler. Just it'll be a New Game Plus thing for you, right? It'll be a wonderful New Game Plus experience for you. I think they're better than the movie, is what I'm saying. I think a lot of the story, a lot of the characters and everything of the like is actually better executed than the movie, and that's simply because they have more time to expand on these characters. They have a lot more time to flesh out Gamora, Groot, Rocket, and Drax, and especially Star-Lord, in ways that make them way more relatable, way more appealing, and way less obnoxious. Because sometimes in the movies they can be a little obnoxious, and that is definitely in the games as well, but they're a bit more careful with it. I gotta give it to them, dude. Like, some of the characters in this game are great, and some of the dialogue that they have with each other is fantastic. It isn't anything like it is presented in the trailers. My God, dude. The trailers are the cringiest shit, and I'm just like, whoa, this game is gonna be rough. The context of the situations where they deliver those lines is very different than the trailers. And if you are anything close to being a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, of MCU stuff, of anything like that, if you enjoyed Spider-Man, right? If you enjoyed Spider-Man PS4, or just like really enjoyed Miles Morales, any of those like big cinematic PlayStation like Marvel games, you are absolutely missing out. You are super missing out by not playing this game. It is definitely worth a playthrough. And it also doesn't hurt that the game is visually fucking amazing looking. Like, another gripe that I have is that some of the game lacks polish in some ways. Like, some characters will pop into the scene every once in a while. But it's not enough to like take away from the experience completely. And it's just like one of those things that's like a very high level amount of polish that didn't make it into the game by the time it came out. Dude, yeah, the faces are bananas. The opening shot with Drax talking to you is bonkers how good it is. Highly recommend this game. There's a very, very, very good reason why I think it deserves, why it goes even above Resident Evil Village and Monster Hunter Rise as my top 5 games of the year. It hits on all the levels it needs to hit. It's a great sounding game. It's a great looking game. It's a pretty great playing game most of the time. And it does things with characters and story, and it's handled very well, like super well. So how many Groots out of 5? 5 Groots out of 5.